How are they eating? How are they sleeping? How are they feeling? How are they interacting with folks on a social level? A lot of the kind of history of kind of where they've been and where they're at. Are they able to get up and go in the morning? Are they able to have meaningful relationships with people? So that's kind of your simplistic way of diagnosing a mental illness. A lot of folks can diagnose, such as a psychiatrist who's either an MD or a DO, a medical doctor or doctor of osteopathy, and then in addition to, we have a lot of LCSWs, so licensed clinical social workers on staff, psychologists on staff, and then LPCs, licensed professional counselors. It means that someone is struggling in some form or fashion with something that's related to anxiety, depression, alcohol, drugs, or more severe mental illness such as schizophrenia, bipolar, as well as personality disordered individuals. Depression, there's major depression is probably the most common. It's found probably in about 11%, probably more in the population. Major depression is typically recurrent, which means it's going to come back. So if you look at your typical sine wave, from like a typical sine wave, that's a good representation of what major depression is. So you're going to have really good times, and then someone who suffers from major depression is going to start going into that funk, and then you hit that spot where, and it's not black or white, so it's all on a spectrum. So a lot of people think, oh, they're majorly depressed, they can't even get out of bed. That's not true. There's a lot of folks with major depression that can function, but there's other aspects of their life that are affected due to the depression.
Okay.
But with depression in particular, major depression, you're looking at sleep patterns, you're looking at appetite, feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, obviously like self-harm thoughts, so suicidal ideation. You're looking at, the fancy word is anhedonia, so basically that means you lost pleasure in things you once found pleasurable. So I like to read comics, and now that I'm suffering from a bout of depression, that's the last thing I want to do. So a lot of other symptoms can come across. Those are some of the highlighted symptoms. Depression can be genetic. There's a model out there. It's called the diathesis stress model. Dia being 2, and it's a psychological model that a lot of people ascribe to. Basically, it means you have the genetic predisposition, and then you experience something in your life, typically in the environment, which will flip the switch for depression and or other mental illness. A lot of the times it's ascribed to with a serious mental illness such as schizophrenia, but it can be depression, post-traumatic stress disorder as well.
Okay.
So you have, some family genetics. In addition to you experience a significant event in your life, which is typically negative.
Okay.
Now, I would say there's no specific demographic. All ages, all races. I mean, I think its majority here is, African American and Caucasian. But we get folks of all ages, all races.
Okay.
Age-wise, I would say, I think the last numbers I looked at are like 70% are over the age of 18. So about 250 people come through and get screened a month here. So, you can look at the kind of, it's still a good volume that are kids. We have about 500 kids in the case management clinic of ours.
Wow. So
that are not just outpatient, but that have a case manager assigned, have a psychiatrist, and have a counselor assigned. So personal anecdotes, no. But, I think it's being aware that everyone gets depressed, just as well as everyone gets anxious. And you just hope that they're doing what they need to do in life to make things better, and to overcome it, and ask for help if they need it. I think is a big deal. A lot of people feel like they don't need help, or they are afraid to ask for help. But a big piece is being able just to reach out your hand and simply put, yes, there's still a stigma around mental health, particularly severe mental illness. And I think the more that we talk about it, the more it's identified as something that doesn't make you weird because you're depressed, doesn't make you weird because you're anxious. I think the more we talk about it, the more it'll be accepted and targeted and worked on. You look at kids nowadays, and if something happens, then in the news they say, "Well, didn't people notice it before? What took it so long?" So I think that plays into the role of the stigma of mental health. Is we kind of let these people that may seem weird or strange kind of go through society without saying, "Hey, is there some help you need? Do you want to talk to someone? Do you need to maybe go get some medication?" I think if the stigma wasn't there, then we would be able to have those conversations more freely with people that we think would benefit from that conversation. I'm on a mental health committee that we're looking at that very fact, is to basically not defeating, but lessening the stigma in particularly the Columbia area. So it's something that leaders in the area as well as the city are looking at. That will probably be launching here in the next year.